Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 10 of FTB Interactions. Today we are going to set up our blast furnaces, at least to start the day off. So the electric blast furnace is a crafting mechanic in GregTech that we will be using a lot of. It's this multi-block. Basically a bunch of these green blocks can generally be substituted with input or output hatches or energy hatches, and there's coil blocks in between. And they're used to make a lot of recipes. They can optionally take a fluid. Some recipes take fluids, many don't. I dare say most don't. So initially what we'll be using it for is aluminum. So aluminum ingots are made in a blast furnace with aluminum dust. Not surprisingly, it is a MV recipe, and aluminum is what allows you to get into the MV era. So one of the things you might be thinking if you're not familiar with GregTech is, how do you power a blast furnace to make aluminum if you don't have aluminum to get MV power, right? Because like a transformer to, let's see, you want a high volt, oh no, you want this one, a medium voltage transformer in up mode, right? 32 volts in, 128 volts out. But this takes, this doesn't take aluminum components. Well, this is one way you can produce medium voltage power before you have aluminum. The other way, the blast furnace just directly accepts multiple energy input hatches, and you see there each one accepts up to 2 amps. So that's 4 amps of LV is enough to do medium voltage recipes. Single block machines only accept a single amp, so you can't do this trick with them, but you can with blast furnaces. Anyways, with blast furnaces, they can share blocks with their neighbors. So when you set them up, you generally want to leave enough room to allow you to place multiple blast furnaces adjacent to each other. So like if I place, let's see, we'll start here. If I place one blast furnace here, we need a blast furnace, 2 energy inputs. I don't think these are, they are sided. So I guess let's point the dot towards the actual energy cable. I forget, the dot pointed towards me when I placed it, right? Yeah. And then an input and an output. So these buses are actually very convenient in that they auto push and auto pull. And then you fill the rest. Oopsies, that's not a heat proof block. You fill the rest in with heat proof casings on the bottom. Your choice of coils. Coils each have a temperature. So copper nickel go up to 1800 Kelvin. But as you get higher tier coils, they can, they get hotter and hotter. And each recipe has a minimum temperature. So if the coil isn't high enough temperature, you won't be able to do the recipe in it. Anyways, it makes this ring structure, I guess. And then you can top it off with more heat-proof casings. So anything on the top or bottom layer can be heat-proof casings, or an input bus, or an appropriate bus. Now, when you do this, you can see, you right click it and you can see, hey, this is now electric blast furnace. So what I can do is, if I wanted to set up another one adjacent to it, I could put a blast furnace here. They cannot share functional blocks. So like this input bus cannot go here. This input bus would have to go, say, right here. Right, because an input bus is a functional block. So let's change things up just a little bit to support that. And then, I don't have a functional block here. So then what I can do is, when I build out this blast furnace, put its energy bus here, yada, yada, yada. That way, the second blast furnace gets to share one whole set of walls with the first one, reducing the total number of resources you need to make it. So as I was saying, because this blast furnace has 2 input ports, you can see its max EU per tick is 128, which is MV recipes. So if we put aluminum dust into the input bus. Now, initially, my aluminum dust comes from centrifuging. What was I centrifuging? Or maybe I was electrolyzing? Yeah, I must have been electrolyzing something. I forget what exactly I did. No, I definitely got it in a centrifuge for processing something. Not aluminum, not canthal. Must have been magnolium? I forget. But I was getting tiny piles of... Oh, yeah, I should look at tiny pile. That's what I was. So I was getting tiny piles from ore washing. That's what it was. I was ore washing these various gems, and they give aluminum dust as a byproduct. So later you can get aluminum dust far more easily by electrolyzing clay dust or various other things. But I think it's most easily from electrolyzing clay dust. It's here somewhere, trust me. I promise, I found it earlier. Here it is. Clay dust contains aluminum and some other useful things, lithium, sodium, and silicon. The water is a bit less useful, but this is an MV recipe, right? So we need an MV electrolyzer before we can do it. Anyways, we can see this process is very slow, and it's using 128 EU a tick, which means it's drawing 4 amps from our power, right? So it's using a half of our power generation, and it's slow. All right, well, anyways, that's really all there is for this machine. Our product comes out the output hatch. Our first couple ingots I want to turn into a glider. The reason I want the glider is because, for one, the glider will make it easier to avoid fall damage. Oh, I need one more aluminum ingot. But for two, it'll make traversing the world easier. So if you remember, I have multi-jump on my boots, so I can get pretty high. But of course, gravity pulls me down afterwards, painfully so. But if I have a glider, not only does that mean I can glide down instead of falling down, but while I'm gliding down, I get to go places. So it'll make exploring the world far easier. Let's try it out. Aha! And I think I have 4 jumps total. And after 4 jumps, I do have to land to get more jumps. But for now, this will make traversing the world just that much easier. It also makes getting around the nether much safer, because, you know, I don't have to hope I can jump those chasms anymore and then land in lava if I fail. Now that we can make MB machine hulls, I made 1 and got 5 from quest rewards. Seems like a good deal to me. We're also going to need their corresponding circuits. So these circuits, for now, are made, well, there's this basic electronic circuit is the same tier as this good electronic. Wait, hold on. No, this is a tier 1 circuit, isn't it? Am I out of my mind here? Basic electronic circuit is made. Yeah, this is a tier 1 circuit. All right, so this circuit is equivalent to, where do I have them? These integrated logic circuits. What we want are these tier 2 circuits, which are good circuits, which require being built up from these integrated logic circuits. I think there's a table in the quest book that makes this a bit more clear. Here's that page. I like the way the circuits were laid out in OmniFactory slightly more. It was more clear, like which circuits upgraded to what. So that quest reward got these basic electronic circuits are tier 1 circuits. So all the circuits on this row are tier 1, all the ones on this row are tier 2. Just as you go higher, they require a higher technology level to make, but they're also, you get like, you know, you can make them directly. They're easier to make, assuming you have the proper infrastructure. All right, so what we need for MV, though, because these are items in this row are used in MV recipes, are good electronic circuits. So these are made from tier 1 circuits, which we have to batch produce, and diodes. The only tricky thing about diodes, let's see, we can make them more efficiently once we have polyethylene and a MV assembler. But for now, we have to make them by hand, so that's going to take a fair bit of gallium dust. The rest of this, you know, glass, tin, black dye, whatever is easy. Gallium dust, nope, I can't do that because I don't have a catalyst. So I guess what we have to do is centrifuge zinc or sphelerite, which means I have to go back to the nether, find a vein of this, and mine it. Come on, give me the achievement. And do it. Aha! Return to sender. You drop no, it didn't. Unlucky. I find mining in the nether kind of difficult. Not only are there, you know, things that try to kill you, but it's a little hard to tell, like, the ores apart from the netherrack. You can, if you look closely, you can see the difference. But especially if it's not lit up, like where I'm relying on dark vision, The low contrast makes it even harder to tell where the ore ends and the netherrack begins. In addition to circuits, which I made 24 of, I'm going to make 40 motors because that's what the quest asks for. I'm not going to claim these rewards yet because I don't think I can use all of them yet. And I guess I'll make these other components as they're needed. So now that we have this MV, casings, motors, and circuits, let's start producing power at the MV level. So I'm going to continue to piggyback off the methane system I have here. However, instead of using low voltage gas turbines, I'll use medium voltage gas turbines. So yeah, I think I'm contemplating whether or not I want to extend or make a new set of medium voltage centrifuges as well. But for now, I'll just use the bank of methane we have and make medium voltage turbines, I think. The MV version of this blue steel cable, like the lossless cable, is mana steel. So I made some of that. It looks, I guess it's a lighter blue. But it handles 4 amps, and I've been told, and actually I believe it's true, that these limits are actually per connection, the amperage limits, per connection, not per cable. So what that means is that because this can handle 4 amps, as long as I have no single connection that, draws or outputs more than 4 amps, I don't actually have to upgrade it. So like here, this 8x cable, I could still be using 1x on all of these, and I don't think it would burn it, because my biggest consumers are this transformer, right, at 4 amps, and these input ports at 2 amps. But since, 4 and 2 are both less than or equal to 4, it won't actually burn the cable. At least I'm pretty sure that's true. Anyways, these advanced gas turbines are just the MV version of the basic gas turbines. They consume 4 times as much fuel and output 4 times as much power. So we'll just run our cables over to them. Where's my wrench? Connect. Alright, so these are started to generate power. I guess I can't run the cable this way, can I? Because I have to actually run my power cable this way as well. If I do this, is this cable willing and able to run like this? It says it respects gravity. I guess the fact that it's pressurized allows that to work. Alright, I guess it makes more sense to run it underneath and not over, huh? To connect my MV producers to my LV network, I'm going to go through a couple transformers. These are in step down mode, so I believe it's this side with the dot is a high voltage side. Yep, so those are power now, and then all the other sides can be outputs. To test my cable theory, I'm going to do this and that. And the fact that this cable here does not burn, right, because if you think about it, each of these outputs 8 amp or 4 amps. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 is greater than 4, but this cable is not burning because, again, the limits are per connection. If you exceed the limit on any single connection, I'm pretty sure you instantly burn every single wire in your network. So, yeah, it's one of the weird quirks of GregTech's wiring system. Anyways, what that means is I wasted a lot of blue steel making this 8x blue steel cable. But now, if our LV gas turbines can no longer provide enough power to run the LV side of the base, then our medium voltage turbines can give them a hand. Now, I do have to be careful not to accidentally connect my LV cable directly to an MV cable. That will burn either all of my LV lines or all of my LV machines. So that's obviously not good. So to that end, this line here is basically the divider, right? I'm not going to run any LV lines up to this edge, and I'm not going to run any MV lines beyond this edge. And that way there's a small buffer so that, we keep the cables from burning. One of the first MV machines I want to set up is the electrolyzer to make more aluminum. So my plan is to macerate clay. Let's grab some of that. and then electrolyze it into its components. And one of those components is aluminum. So let's get a reasonably sized batch to start. Unfortunately, there's no trivial way to generate clay in this pack. I mean, we can sieve it or crucible it, but yeah, there's no no easy way to generate infinite clay. But that's okay. Just batch crafting clay, or moving it from the sifter, or getting it from mining terracotta is acceptable. So what we can do is, GregTech machines can actually auto output. If you hit one of the, when you hold the wrench up to it, hit the side that you want it to output to, and normally there's this, see that black square on the back, that's the output side. You cause it to move to there. So this, if you enable auto output in the UI as well, it pushes the item over. So now we have the macerator, turning clay into dust. Apparently this is not a 100% operation. Clay dust. Yeah, it is. What? Why do I? Oh, it's because some of it got used up to start the process, right? This electrolyzer then will turn it into its various components and water, I believe. So I'll just throw the water out and store all of these into barrels for now. I take back what I said a minute ago about not being able to fully automate clay. You totally can. There's like a 500 million different ways. The quest book even shows you some of them. But I'm not going to set up any of those yet because we just don't need that much at this time. So I'm going to grab a piece of aluminum to complete that quest. Grab a piece of silicon to complete this one. Oh, I should lock these drawers, huh? That seems like a good idea. How do I do that? Nothing in offhand. Shift right click. Lock. Alright, so I'm going to lock these, and then next up, let's start using a MV assembly machine. So in addition to being faster than the LV one, this assembly machine can also make the higher tier circuits. So not this recipe, I guess. This recipe is a MV recipe, so it cannot be made in the LV assembler. I think what this will allow us to do is actually, once we make these integrated circuits, we can make. We didn't need this assembly machine for this specifically, did we? Well, in any event, this MV assembly machine is just better than the LV one. I'm going to claim some quest rewards here, except the ones I don't need. Next up, let's put our infrastructure to work to make better circuits. So if we make advanced circuit parts, this is the best of the basic circuits. We get 4 per craft, which means, it's, I said, they all yield 4, right? Yeah, which means that we don't have to make nearly as many of these as when we do it, these by hand, because these only yield 1 per craft. And they can reasonably easily be upgraded to the next tier circuit as well. At least I think they can. So I take that back yet again. They cannot be upgraded to the next circuit, which is the integrated processor. However, the same components that make one also make the other. So it's pretty easy just to, I guess you need like a slightly different set of components, right? Find you change you change your wires around a little bit, but then you get you get 1 tier 2 circuit instead of 4 tier 1 circuits, which is more or less the same. There's a couple bottlenecks to producing this, however. So most of these things, well, polyethylene. Let's see, is there anything else? I think it's just polyethylene. This also takes polyethylene. This has to be made. So I guess the 2 things are polyethylene and silicon boules to make these various, and laser engravers to make these wafers. Let's start with the polyethylene because I think it's the slightly more difficult task. So we'll do it first. Polyethylene is made by combining ethylene with preferably oxygen. That's the best we can do for now. Wait a second, can we make the egg? Ah, plastic chicken. No, we need polyethylene to make the chicken. But we can make everything else. Oh, I wonder, is it worth making the chicken instead of fully automating the polyethylene process then? This is egg and ethanol. How do we make ethanol? Is it trivial? Wood vinegar, biomass. Can make biomass out of basically any plant. That doesn't seem like a bad deal. Let me look this over. Yeah, it looks like no matter how you slice it, you have to make ethanol to make ethylene. So once you make more than your first couple buckets, it is worth diverting into the chicken route, and then you can, there's a 500,000 different things you can make biomass out of at that point. To produce the ethanol, we'll have to start with water, brew that with plant mass, biomass, which comes from our compressor, or what does it come from? It comes from these centrifuges, right? They turn our mineral crystals into, among other things, biomass. So I'll fill my inventory up, however many stacks that is. And then we'll transport these by hand. At some point, we'll want to automate this item transport. But for now, doing it by hand's fine. That turns it into turns it into biomass, which gets put into our distillery, which should automatically distill into ethanol. That is part 1. Part 2 is to turn ethanol into ethylene, and that is done in a chemical reactor. Well, we can burn it as is. It's not terribly good fuel, but it is an option. But anyways, that is done in a chemical reactor with sulfuric acid, and I believe that's the only way to turn ethanol into ethylene for now. Yeah. I swore that MV macerators could get a single byproduct, but apparently not. So here I am pulverizing sulfur ore to try to get the sulfur byproduct that it literally cannot give me. Whoops. Anyways, I managed to process a little bit of that sulfur down. By mixing the sulfur with water, we get sulfuric acid. Thankfully, the easy sulfuric acid recipe is enabled in this pack. That's not sulfuric acid. So there's 2 ways to make sulfuric acid. There's the hard way, which is you mix water with sulfur trioxide, which is oxygen and sulfur dioxide, or oxygen and sulfur, yada yada yada. Or the easy way, which is you just directly mix sulfur dust into water. So I decided to go with the easy way because why jump through hoops? Anyways, then you mix the sulfuric acid with ethanol. This will give you our ethylene. And then I just need one more chemical reactor to mix ethylene with either air or let's see, where is it? Right, air or oxygen, and I just need 2 buckets of polyethylene to make the chicken. Since this setup really just is temporary, I'm going to use an air collector. So that will produce air. I believe it auto outputs. I guess I still have to configure its auto output to the bottom. No, it's not a thing I'm allowed to do. Alright, fine. We'll use conduits then. There we go. So this will mix the air with ethylene. I believe I do. Do I need a card? I suspect I need a card. Yeah, on 0. Alright. These program circuits are usually just used to disambiguate recipes. So in this case, this recipe can either, it has 2 forms. Well, it has 2 that it has to disambiguate between. This one, which is 0 for ethylene and air, and then this one, which is 1 for ethylene, air, and titanium tetrachloride. So put that there. All right, this should start making ethylene or polyethylene. I need 2 buckets of this to make my plastic chicken. I appear to have run into a bit of a snag on the quest book. So the ethylene cell quest here is blocked because it doesn't think I can make sulfuric acid. Normally, I guess the way the quest book wants you to make sulfuric acid is the hard way that I mentioned. So it wants you to mix sulfur dust with hydrogen to make hydrogen sulfide, and then do something with that to make sulfuric acid. Mix that with water, I guess. But I don't want to go the hard way. So I'm just going to cheat and mark this quest complete so that it will unblock the quest in front of it. The next quest here even mentions water and sulfur can be used to create sulfuric acid. So it's not like this easy way of creating sulfuric acid was unintended, I think. Also, for some reason, it doesn't detect my cell. So I don't quite understand why. Let me try, I guess, making a new cell of it. I just need a tank I can use for a second. Well, I only needed technically 2 buckets, or 2 or 4 buckets of polyethylene, but I made a bit more than that. That's alright. It's not like strict, it's not wasted or anything. So let's mix plastic, infinity dust, quicksilver. Man, poor chicken. It's getting plastic, poisonous dust, quicksilver, which is mercury, and more plastic shoved in it. Well, I guess that's how you make a chicken into plastic. Technically, you only need to make 1. If you make 1, you can breed it with the smart chicken, and half the time you'll get a second one, and the other half, you'll get a smart chicken to throw away. But the mixer is faster than the breeding cycle, so I find it's more convenient to make 2 to skip that first breeding cycle. Anyways, because this is a basic machine, we can also probably speed it up a few times. Alright, now I gotta breed my chickens. That's what the time in a bottle is for. So I have just short of 14 hours to start with. Let's see how long it takes to get a stack of 10-10-10 chickens. Now, once they get to 10-10-10, they kind of just pop out like candy until you run out of seeds. Seeds. Give seeds. But let's see. We started with, what was it? Just under 4. I already forgot. 14 hours. So it only used an hour of bottle time. That's not half bad. But yeah, not at this point. They're just infinite. All right. Well, here's a stack of them. I'll let it produce however many it has seeds left for, and I'll take these chickens and then integrate them into our polyethylene line. So by switching to the chicken, I was able to free up 2 chemical reactors and an air collector that can now go do something else, which is good. It means less machines running, less power used. I don't have to craft more chemical reactors later. MV and HV chemical reactors will be some of your most heavily used machines, so they definitely will not go to waste. Anyways, we still have some polyethylene left over, and I don't think I could insert into this slot. Yeah, this is an extract only slot, right? So I still need a fluid solidifier to turn this into either ingots or sheets. I may or may not have run out of the MV circuits, so I just ended up making an LV fluid solidifier and a transformer to power it. So this steps the MV down to LV so that I don't blow my machine up. This machine is plenty fast because this step is slow, and the output is polyethylene sheets. So the quests here still seem to be weirdly gated. I think it's because this ethylene cell quest, I thought it was or, but I guess it wants it's and. So I will never unlock this quest, at least not for the longest time, because it'll be, well, I've done that one. I've done that one, so I guess I need steam crack naphtha before I unlock it. Creative modifier, what the? Is this actually an LV quest? I guess it is. Well, I may or may not ever do that. With polyethylene in hand, both in sheet form and in fluid form, we can make these SMD devices, or surface mounted device. Transistors, resistors, and capacitors. They're just very efficient. For relatively little input, you get a lot of outputs. So the trickiest one here is the capacitor that will require either polyvinyl chloride or silicone rubber. Because I am bypassing the production of ethylene now, PVC is going to be slightly more difficult to make. Because normally you make vinyl chloride by splitting your ethylene production, right? Instead of mixing ethylene with air, you mix it with chlorine to get PVC. But since I'm skipping the ethylene stuff, I think I'm not going to make PVC, and instead we'll go with silicone rubber. But hopefully this isn't a massive project on its own, right? So sulfur and polydimethylsiloxane. Polydimethylsiloxane. Pretty sure I got that one right. This looks like it might be a journey. Okay, this does look water, chlorine, methane, MV, and silicon dust. I think we can do this. Well, it looks like we are unfortunately out of time for today, so we'll come back tomorrow and continue on our not PVC, but our silicon rubber journey. Lots more chemistry ahead of us. In any event, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.